Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNine.
And this is The Fool.
This is where me and the Fool give our
unqualified and unrequested
ramblings on the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello, everyone. Now, this is possibly a podcast we should have done much earlier in our podcasting career, but I think just to make our biases and opinions on sports, you understand where they're coming from, and so you can analyze what we're saying critically and things like that. We should probably talk to you about how we think about various sports, where it places in the cosmology in our heads of what sports does and what's important and how it goes. So we're going to go with each of our fandoms, what we like and what teams we like, and also what sports we really like, what sports we've played and what sports we've done. So I will put the floor up to you. Let's start off. What would you say are your sports that you like and sports you've played and enjoy playing? And at what level?
I guess football's, for me, has always held a pretty special place in my heart. Played it when I was young, played it through junior levels. I did stop and then start playing hockey, which obviously is the sport I play now. And, I mean, I was never very good at soccer or football, so not that I'm great at hockey either, but I've always stuck that. My dad played hockey, so that was it. My uncles play soccer. But that's
one of the soccer heartlands of the country in Pukekohe.
Yeah, exactly. And they both moved to Christchurch and continue playing there. Those two uncles. So, but yeah, I grew up. They were big English football fans as well. So, grew up with Liverpool games on all the time. So that was sort of all through the 80s. 80s child of Liverpool games. I was the original fanboy. Look, they win everything. That's the best team. I'll follow them. And then eventually I sort of found my own way to Chelsea. Sort of when they weren't really winning anything, but they seemed cool. And they were all blue. And so,
And they have a big lion on their crest.
And they have a big lion. Yeah, how can you not go wrong? So so football's always been there, pretty much the top for me. And then cricket was the summer sport for me. And I mean, that's what we played at school. Once again, the 80s, so you had Hadley and Crowe and all the rest just dominating the world game as well. So you always had fun things to watch on TV with the cricket over summer. And whenever it was the summer terms at school, that was what you played. You went down the field, you played cricket. And the winter ones where I was, say, Pukekohe, nice football heartland. It was also a rugby heartland, but we were a football school and we just went and played football all day during the winter. So in terms of teams, Chelsea, the All Whites, I've always liked following them. New Zealand cricket, the Black Caps.
Would you say you're a Chelsea fan first or an All Whites fan first?
These days, probably a Chelsea fan first, but it's always been pretty close. Back when I was a child, and even in teenage years, and even probably through into uni, I would have put myself as an All Whites fan first. But it's time, and I know since then the All Whites actually have become good, so following them is a lot easier. But I don't know, being at uni and around you guys and everything, I think I picked up more English football then, and it became a bigger part of what I was doing, as opposed to being the thing that my uncles liked and I sort of liked and I sort of followed, but didn't really think. It wasn't like I was. It was football's played. At that stage there wasn't online demand or anything, so it was early hours of the morning. You didn't really get it, and so it was sort of the Sunday roundups. That's what you got. But the football, I went and saw All Whites games when I was young as well, so which was always fun. I actually got to go to a All Whites England game back in 1990, 91. Like that. England came here with a reasonably full size strength team, so I got to go there. That was always fun. So yeah, I've always been a football and a cricket person. I mean, I am a New Zealander, so the
Yeah.
All Blacks come
Yeah.
fourth in that list. They come fourth. Like the All Blacks
So
playing,
if
I watch it,
I
but
were to rank it for you, you'd go Chelsea, All Whites, Black Caps. Now I have to ask you. I know you put the All Blacks fourth. Are the Warriors below the All Blacks for you?
probably just. But
That's
I've
close.
it's close, and the other one's close is the two New Zealand hockey teams, so men and women's hockey teams. Especially if it's a I should watch them more because they actually have proper champion, like the Test Championship for cricket. They've got a World Hockey Championship thing going on where it's outside the World Cup. They have another ongoing league, the World Hockey League or something. I forget what they call it. Um, but yeah, so between the All Blacks probably come first, and then probably the Warriors, and then probably the two New Zealand hockey teams. Um, but the four of those are actually pretty close. I say three because whilst it's two teams for the New Zealand and women's hockey teams, they're both called the Black Sticks, and I both pretty much just follow them both, so it doesn't really matter. Just twins, like almost twin sides of the coin there, and they play
Yeah.
similar times, and it's not really split up, so it's not that bad. Um, but yeah,
Y-
it.
Would you have any strong sporting allegiances outside of that? Or is below that, do you get things like your casual allegiances, like your so-called Buffalo Bills fandom?
No, I would actually put the netball in there. So I've always
Silver
liked
Ferns, yeah, fair,
Silver Ferns, Northern Mystics. Like they're my one Auckland side that I really support. Like I'm not
fair.
coming from counties, never really supported Auckland teams except the Mystics. Mystics I support. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
counties. Where do they figure in your loyalty?
well, to be fair, counties is top loyalty. Doesn't matter. Like counties rugby team, counties hockey team,
Is
counties anything.
counties above All Blacks? Do you want to readjust your list now?
Well, yeah, I forgot to stick that in. Like, really, counties comes first, in whatever
Yeah,
sport it is. It's they're sort of a not don't really get counted because they're just it's there. Like, is there a some random sport where there's a counties team playing? Well, I'm supporting them in that. Whatever that might be. Tic
yep,
tac toe championship. There's a guy from counties. I'm supporting him in that. Doesn't matter. Um, so
yep,
it's sort of it is a fandom as
yeah,
such, but it's
yeah,
sort of a to me it's not a I almost wouldn't count it as a sporting fandom, despite the fact it is a sporting
yeah,
allegiance.
yeah, and
It's
yeah, I understand. But you'd put counties Manukau rugby team above the All Blacks, though. The national, the Air New Zealand.
yeah. I probably would. It's a little because it's counties, but then it's rugby, so the All Blacks sort of count high in my rugby standings. So it's a bit it.
Fair enough. So
I
do the Chiefs count at all? Do they break into your top 10, do you think?
They do count, and they would count as my third rugby team. So, and I don't claim to that this makes sense. That counties is my top allegiance out of everything. But then when I split into sports, the counties team has become below the New Zealand team. That's just how that
Yeah.
works in my head. Um, but yeah, so it would probably go All Blacks, counties, Chiefs. Because Chiefs is part of Waikato and rest
Right.
come inside.
So let's reevaluate your rankings then. So we're still sticking to the All Blacks at fifth, at fourth, and you still have the Warriors at fifth, or do counties move into fifth
I think
above the Warriors?
The Warriors really depends on which part of my life I'm talking about. Overall, I
Yeah,
think they stay at fifth because
yeah,
they have fluctuated throughout in importance to me. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, I've been there. I've been a fan since day one. Like
And
I
to be
really have.
fair, of all the teams you can go to watch domestically in the Greater Auckland region, Warriors at Mount Smart is probably the best atmosphere,
Yeah,
hands
and
down.
to be fair, out of all the teams I support, I've been to the most Warriors games.
Yeah,
Like I've been to many, many lots when I
yeah,
think
yeah.
about it. Like, and I've been there since might have been about the second or third year of their existence. I didn't go in the first year, but I think the second, might have been second year. I went to a Warriors Broncos game. I think in their
Yeah.
second year, maybe. Yeah.
Fingers crossed they get to play back at Mount Smart where they belong.
Where they belong. It'd be very exciting. So yeah, the thing is for me, once you get it, once we get to the rugby teams, it's a little blurry on exactly how they line up. Um, so yeah, I would say the All Blacks go first, and then probably
Then
Counties, then the
Warriors.
probably Counties and Warriors.
The
Warriors
Counties, then Warriors, and then Chiefs?
Then Chiefs,
Or
yeah.
then the hockey teams, then the Chiefs?
No, then the Chiefs, then the hockey teams. Just, I mean, the hockey teams have a special place for me, but
Yeah.
I don't watch them as much. B, they're not on TV as much. Though I say the World Hockey League thing that they've got now is actually on Spark Sports, so I should watch that more.
So I think
Especially when
that
the
does
John
your
teams play.
I think that does your top 10 then, because you've got then
Yeah, and anything
Chelsea, All Whites, Black Caps, All Blacks, Counties, Warriors,
Chiefs,
Chiefs,
two hockey teams, Silver Ferns.
Silver Fans. There you go.
Yeah, as I say,
That's
if there's anything missing, then it's the two netball teams. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, say the Mystics
You
get
could
an
put them
honorable
in
mention.
10th equal if you want.
The Mystics, Northern Mystics, can be an honorable mention for being the one Auckland team I support.
Not even the Breakers?
Okay, also the Breakers. And actually, to be fair, Auckland City football, but you know.
Of Auckland City football, how could
I'm
you?
sorry. Well, I come from further south. Like, Waitakare's way up here. I've come up this way now. I should really change allegiances, but
Given Waitakere FC is like, I don't mind if you don't support Waitakere United or Waitakere City United, but Waitakere FC, they're our local.
Actually, they're going to be my local because my son wants to start football, so we're going to be West Coast Rangers now?
Yeah. Is it West Coast Rangers? I thought it was Waitakere FC United.
No, West Coast Rangers now.
Now, okay.
Yeah, well, at least for the kids, that's what they call them. So.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So with me, sport, I think it's very it's different growing up because I didn't grow up in New Zealand. I grew up born in Bangladesh. I moved to Brunei when I was 5 years old, and then I moved to New Zealand when I was 17. I've lived here ever since. So that kind of colors, sport is not as big, or at least wasn't as big in the early 80s in Bangladesh. At least I don't remember it being as big, if that makes sense. I'm sure I'm sure if I think hard, my dad would be watching football games and cricket games on TV when it was on. But this is, you gotta remember, before satellite TV was widely available. Bangladesh had only been an independent country for 8 years. They were building a lot of infrastructure, and things like getting live games for things other than the World Cup was probably very rare. And the football World Cup, that is. So probably the two sporting events that I most remember from my youth are the Olympics and the football World Cup, which, no surprise, given the that situation. And then when I moved to Brunei, started playing in school, I started getting into playing more and more sport. Like you, the earliest sport I played is football. It's and I kept and I played and I loved playing it at school. We got to the point where at school we couldn't get uh footballs, so we used to play with plastic water bottles and things like that, because we played the equivalent of on concrete.
Right. Yeah.
It was like playing futsal or indoor football.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I remember that first played. I went to a primary school that had a football field when I was 12 years old, and we played football every lunch because play football every lunch.
Yeah.
And that was the last year of primary school. Then when I went to high school, they all had football pitches and things like that. So, and I didn't really get into cricket or even really know that it was a sport. I went back to visit Bangladesh when I was 8 years old, and I distinctly remember that they told me to bowl to my cousin who was batting, and I think with the very first delivery I ever bowled, I got him out,
Nice.
and I responded by going, "Strike one. I just have to get you out two more times." And everybody was just like, "No, that's not how this works." But I
Nice.
realized I liked getting people out, and that's why I
Yeah.
keep playing cricket. That's what motivates me to play cricket. Um, so I got it was on and off in my life. Like I didn't really like I played it when I was in Bangladesh. Bangladeshi winters and spring, and when I went back to it was around November, December, all the way to February. This was a long trip
Yep.
that we had, and like so during that long trip, I played a lot of cricket that time, and and when I went back to Brunei, nobody else played cricket, so I kind of like forgot about it.
Yeah.
And went back to watching football. In the meantime, we used to have like a weekly roundup football show every Sunday. And we had to basically had 1 hour of just the Premiership football stuff, and then an hour of
Yeah.
just basic sports updates, something like the equivalent of Wide World of Sports or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
just had every single sports thing, and it showed you. So that's why I was familiar with the rules of games like Spaceball, for example.
Yeah.
And so that's when my dad was a hardcore Liverpool fan. Like football was and still is the biggest sport in Bangladesh, I like to think. Despite cricket being popular there,
Yeah.
he was just like, "This is the team. They win everything. You have to support them." And basically, the team they were playing up against was Manchester United, and he's like, "These guys are losers. They suck." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna support them because
Take
my dad."
take that,
So
Dad.
we so back in the day, as like a 6 or 7 year old, like before Alex Ferguson became the manager of the team.
Yeah.
I became a Manchester United fan and followed their thing. And I thought Manchester United were pretty good. I distinctly remember 1985. I think the FA Cup final was the one where Manchester United won. And I think that might have been when I first got into this is a team, blah blah blah. Or it might be 1986. But it's one of those FA Cup finals that kind of got me hooked. Like this was, I think, the first match uh, that I watched full 90 minutes as a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
Everton versus United. I just looked it up. So that was the game, and then like the season after, that was the team that intrigued me the most, and I ended up becoming their fan. Um,
Yeah.
Well, so they're always been the team have loved the most. But it took a while for me to really get into football as a fan thing. Like I watched it once a week, and sometimes I didn't watch it. It wasn't something like I felt like I had to watch.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
as an 8 year old, sometimes I'd be like, it's afternoon, let's take a nap or go out and play and do other
Yeah.
things that kids do.
Sometimes
And
just playing football was better than watching it or playing cricket,
not at
depending on.
12 in the afternoon in an equatorial climate.
Yeah. 12 in the afternoon in New Zealand, it was a much better time to play it.
Yeah. Um, But there's like you have to wait till the evening before you played
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
Like we did it at school because at
It's cool.
school you play when you get recess. Like you don't have
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah.
But that's different. Or like you play at home time, waiting for your parents to come pick you up. Like, but that's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we played football, and then like I vaguely remember following the '86 World Cup. I didn't really.
Yeah. Same.
I really got into it in the 1988 European Championships because there was a team that played in orange, and I was mesmerized by them. And I have been ever since. Like I love the All Whites, and they are the team I like go to. Would always be wanting to go to games to and follow. But I think if there was ever a World Cup final between the All Whites and Holland, I would have a really hard time deciding which team to support in that
Yeah.
final.
Very nice.
Um, This
I
is
mean
the
that.
team I've always supported. I didn't even understand Bangladesh had a football team. Like that's how young I was. It didn't occur to me later on the teams in the European Championships were all European. Like yeah, like so that's the those are so you can Manchester United were probably like are obviously my number one team and they're the first team I supported. Um, I really got into cricket, started following the sport after the '92 Cricket World Cup in
Yeah.
New Zealand and Australia. Like I wasn't here, I hadn't moved to New Zealand yet, but I went on another holiday back to Bangladesh during the World Cup time,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically caught New Zealand's run. And we into the semifinals, and then like in the semifinals because Pakistan beat New Zealand, who I was supporting because I thought they were playing incredible, and everybody was like impressed by how well Martin Crowe was playing.
Yeah.
Um, he was one of my. He became the first cricket player I really liked to watch. Like I'd be on TV, like wanting to see what he was doing
Yeah.
and getting interested in watching a sportsman. Like one of the first I can remember. And we uh the then when we then when New Zealand lost to Pakistan in the semifinals, like I was still a kid. Like nowadays, like I can respect what the Pakistani team did in that World Cup, and like it's
Yeah.
such an incredible performance by Inzamam ul Haq. Like there's no shame to losing to one of the great cricket performances in like the World Cup history, right? Like that
Exactly.
innings from Inzamam is legendary for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, and then like so I supported England in the finals, and yeah, like I thought England were winning until Wasim Akram bowled that magic spell. And like even then back then I was like, oh, the team I liked lost again and I couldn't understand it. But nowadays I respect, I've learned to understand and respect that craft and that beautiful performance from Wasim Akram. It's like one of
Yeah.
the great
Exactly.
World Cup bowling performances.
Oh yeah.
So so and I didn't even know we were gonna end up moving to New Zealand. That wasn't a thing that was on our radar back then. Like we were, in an alternate timeline, there exists one where I didn't move to New Zealand and I was in Australia instead, or because my parents were looking at countries where we could immigrate to, or Canada for that matter.
Yeah.
It's really so. It's just eventually, we ended up in New Zealand, and like before I ended up moving here, like I knew by the '96 World Cup that we were gonna move to New Zealand,
All
and
right.
New Zealand became my team. Like I moved to New Zealand in 1997, and
Right.
like
Yeah.
we had gotten all our immigration stuff approved to move to New Zealand in 1994.
All right.
We were meant to move in 1995, but my dad got like a contract renewal for another 3 years, so he was like, money, may as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
and well,
Actual job.
like actually go after that, and like yeah,
Yeah.
which made sense.
That makes sense.
And so moving to New Zealand, I took to rugby and rugby league very quickly. Like they became sports. Oh, as a side note here, after the first Olympics I properly followed was the '92 Olympics, and a big reason for that is the Dream Team.
All right.
And there
Yeah.
was a player in the Dream Team that I absolutely fell in love with, who's Charles Barkley. And then I asked, people, I like did a bit of research and asked around which team does he play for, and like he just moved to this team called the Phoenix Suns, and that was another love affair that started like from really interesting circumstances, and I'm still a fan. And
Yeah.
while I was a bandwagon fan, I joined a team that, like what was basically a created super team
Yeah.
back in the day. Not really, because they had Charles Barkley and a bunch of good role players in that team.
Yeah.
The fact is, like, they were one of the teams that, like, got a good player in free agency, had lots of money and things like this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I ended up following a team like that. Like, my only counter is that I joined a cool bandwagon rather than joining the Lakers or the Celtics or the Knicks or the
I
Bulls bandwagon.
I agree with you. I mean, I joined the Suns bandwagon about the same time as well. There was a couple of friends and I that, for pretty much the same reason. Well, more one of my friends really liked the same thing, like Charles Barkley, so they all got on.
Yeah,
He got on that, and he was the cool one, so everybody followed him. Um,
fair enough. And
but
like once we did the the band the once I got on there, they were like one of my teams for life. So at the moment, like my top team is obviously Manchester United, followed by the Black Caps. They're like the team like so invested in and so follow,
Yeah.
and like just because I so deeply love those two sports, cricket and football. The third team, just because I've been a fan for so long and through some terrible times, but still invested, is the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
Like, and just how much do I invest in their merch and shit like that? Like over there, so that's there, and then probably um, it's probably the Dutch football. Actually, no, it's the Bangladeshi cricket team at fourth,
Yeah.
then the Dutch football team at fifth, and
Right.
then it's the All Whites. But it's very close between the All Whites and the Dutch football team, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
The
I understand.
so it's their fifth, sixth, and then you've got the Phoenix Suns at seventh in there, but it's really close. Like these are like if you had like the NBA finals going on and you had New Zealand, the All Whites are playing in a knockout game in the World Cup, I would be very hard pressed to pick which game I'd be watching if the Suns are in the NBA finals and things like that. By the way,
Right.
if
Yeah.
my tone is that I do think the Suns are going to make the NBA finals again, just for those
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
you listening in. Um, the back-to-back finals. The
Yeah. The Suns.
so that's the Suns, and so they're the seventh team, and then it's probably the Warriors at eighth,
Mhm.
and I am one of those people. I'm Auckland first, Auckland ninth, then the All Blacks at 10th, and then the Blues at the 11th spot.
Yeah.
Like that would be the order I go in. Like Auckland, then the All Blacks, then. But of course, the Warriors first for me because I'm a league man first.
Fair enough.
Actually, no. To be fair, after the maybe Auckland and then the Kiwis, then the All Blacks, then the Blues.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't put
Like
the
that
Kiwis
would.
in there either. So, but
Yeah, like the Kiwis are probably like if we're going that like that. Basically, I think puts the Kiwis on 10th. And
yeah.
then the All Blacks 11th, followed by the Blues. But they're all very close.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know I would if it came down to it. If there's an All Blacks test going on and a Kiwis test going on, I am watching that Kiwis test. Like I know that what I'd be watching and what I'd be looking forward to going to if I had a choice between two tickets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, meanwhile, I'd probably choose the All Blacks over in that scenario. Uh,
Oh,
but
I mean, it would depend. Like, if the Kiwis are playing if the Kiwis are playing the Kangaroos, no chance I'm going to a rugby game over that game. But if it's okay, the Kiwis are playing Lebanon, and like the All
yeah.
Blacks are playing like a good team like France or England. Like, I'm not even saying Wallabies or South Africa. Obviously, that's a
Yeah.
given that I would go to the rugby game. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same. Yeah. It depends a bit on who it is, but in general, that I realized when you were talking that I did miss out one team, so they can just go as an honorable mention because I have always followed Argentina at World Cups and
Yeah.
such as well.
Yeah.
So
I had noticed you didn't mention them, but I figured like my Holland would jog up your memory. I do
yeah.
have to give a shout out. Like I do really like the Silver Ferns, and I do watch them a
Yeah.
lot, and I do like the New Zealand Breakers, and I do watch them a lot. And yeah, so those are the other guys that I probably also follow.
Yeah.
Like, am
I,
I missing any in my
yeah.
thing? I'm just
There's always people you're missing. Like I was just thinking with Argentina, part of that is that it's a fandom once every 4 years. When the World Cup's
yeah,
on, then I'm an Argentine fanboy. Like that's just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a World Cup. The things we watch the Argentine games, which makes it fun in my household because my father-in-law is very much a Brazilian fan, and
Yeah, yeah.
interesting enough, we both he really hates Argentina, um, for much the same reason why I really love Argentina, and that's of course Maradona.
Yep.
And to
Well,
him,
my
it's
dad
like
really loves Argentina for the same reason.
yeah,
Maradona. Though it's a very divided. It's
Yeah.
very
Uh,
intense and violent in Bangladesh World Cup time between Argentina and Brazil fans.
yeah, yeah.
I am neutral in that rivalry. Any Bengali listeners, do not put me in your toxic fandoms. I think there's also teams like I guess the New York Mets, who I also like and
Mm.
follow a lot, even though they're horrible to follow as a team. Um,
I mean, instead, I like the Suns, as you've
yeah.
mentioned. I like the Buffalo Bills. Also
Yeah,
like
I
the
don't
Red
have an
Sox.
NFL team that I like. I like a lot
Yeah.
of players, but I tend to like go with my thing of like I'm gonna follow three teams. I'm gonna see what their storylines are like. I think NFL is a sport I've learned to like it agnostically,
Yeah.
and like I don't think I would choose to quote unquote like a team, if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. I mean, I'm not a
Yeah,
huge NFL fan, um,
yeah.
but I guess it's always just been, and that comes from my uncles and my family and everything. It's just you choose a team. Like even if you like don't really care, like just choose a team. It doesn't matter. You've chosen your team. That's who you're supporting for this game. So it always seems to end up that way. That for a something,
To
there's a team
like
I'll have.
much in the same way that I like the Mets, I do really like the Essendon Bombers, though they've been terrible for a long time.
Oh yeah,
But well, the first time I ever went to Australia back in '94, and I first visited Australia before visiting New Zealand
yeah,
when we first came here. I was in Perth, and for some reason I watched a game of Essendon versus the West Coast Eagles because those games were like Eagles games were played on TV in
yeah, yeah.
Perth,
That would be
and I just liked Essendon. I don't know why, but I and like now they're the team I like to follow.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Once again, AFL choose a team, and for whatever reason, I have always liked St Kilda. I mean, they are a traditional
So there is a
side.
team I gotta say that it's not. This is not actually a. This should be an actual honorable mention. They're not a casual. I sort of like and I follow
Yeah.
thing. This would be the Bruneian football team. Whichever team that happens to represent Brunei in Malaysia or Singaporean football competitions. So back in
Oh,
the day
nice.
when I lived in Brunei, there's a competition that it's one of the oldest in Asia called the Malaysia Cup. It
Yeah.
used to be called the Malaya Cup, and it's been around since 1920. And it's basically Brunei and Singapore used to field teams in that, so I always used to support the Brunei team. A couple of years after I moved to New Zealand, they finally won the Malaysia Cup.
Oh, nice.
Like after years of being like wooden spooners, and I used
Yeah,
to
yeah.
still support them. Um, and then they're still the only team from Borneo to have ever won the Malaysia Cup.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's a historic victory. They also then went like obviously that systems change and things like that. So the successor of that team is this team called DPPM, which is a team owned by the heir to the throne, like the first son of the Sultan,
All right. Yeah, yeah,
who also used to play for the team before.
yeah.
So he owns the club, and they did play in the M League. Actually, went as far as the semi-finals of the Malaysia Cup. Then then they made some weird rules about you need to have at least 11 you have to have at least like 8 Malaysian players on field at the time, and they applied those rules even to Brunei, the Bruneian team, which was going to have Bruneian players, which
Yeah.
basically they wanted to get rid of the team without telling them we've gotten rid of the team.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so they joined the Singaporean league, and they won the S League in 2018. And
Nice.
before this team joined the M League, they were part of the B League, the Brunei League, and won
Right. Yeah.
that as well. So they're one of the few teams in the world to have won the national championship of three different countries.
Nice.
And they're back in the B League, and they'll probably win it again this year. Because of COVID, like the season in Brunei itself was cancelled. The Bruneian League, which is the
Yeah.
B League, it was cancelled due to COVID, and they didn't restart it in 2021. But it will be, or at least it's current. I think it's currently going the 2021-2022 season.
All right. Yeah.
And I believe they are poised to win that competition.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so that team and its successor team DPPM it has a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. That again.
So it's interesting how these things, like we all have a different journey to how we got into these fandoms. Like at the moment, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guessing for you, the biggest fandom, like the one that takes up the most amount of your headspace with the least amount of rent is football.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah, and then followed by cricket.
Yes. Then followed by cricket.
Yeah,
Um, especially at the moment, like it's. I guess these days there's less of that distinction, but it was always it's summer, cricket is the thing that's in my head. It's winter, it's football.
yeah,
But these days things merge across a little bit more, especially since following more the EPL, so their season is our summer. So,
yeah.
but the cricket is much more tour. There's more touring going on now because they're almost constant touring. So you have games through our winter, which is in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah. And I think for me, at the moment with Headspace, obviously football is number one, always number one. Actually, it's very close to cricket is very, very close. The amount of thought I give to cricket and like the amount of analytical thought I give to cricket, I don't give to football. The amount of history reading and research I do on cricket and think about in terms of techniques and, plans and
Yeah.
strategies, I don't do that for football. And that just might be because cricket's a more analytical sport with numbers. But that's
Mhm.
not necessarily
Yeah.
true because I mentioned my model of space and probability that football does. It's a more complex game in many ways
Yeah.
because it's a real-time strategy game. Just because it looks
Yeah.
simpler doesn't mean it is. And like I think you and I are of the opinion that a real-time strategy game is always harder to play than a turn-based strategy game.
Of course, yes. I mean, I can actually be good at a turn-based strategy game.
Yeah.
But I always yeah, I like football in that same way of, I guess I almost put more analytical headspace into football, but it comes from watching football matches
Yeah.
and comparing it to the hockey matches I'm playing and the analysis that my hockey team is doing on our own performances and our practices and what we're
Yeah.
trying to do and being like, how what am I watching? Because I'm watching mostly watching professional football players, but there's a lot of concepts that work and a lot of the
Yeah.
same t- types of strategies work. So it's like, well, how are they doing it? How does that have to be adapted into hockey? And
Yeah.
how can we as a very social amateur club or team do some of that stuff as well? Like,
Yeah.
what is actually going to work for us? How does it? And how can I use that in my own game to be a better team player and a better hockey player?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, yeah, the fact that you still play hockey must play a huge role in your how much
Mm.
it affects the. Though I have to say, even though I didn't mention these sports because they're single sports, and we were talking specifically about fans of teams. Big shout out to a bunch of tennis players like Boris Becker, Roger
Oh yeah.
Federer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Rafa Nadal as a player, and I love Djokovic as a player. Okay, I'm not talking about them personally.
Yeah, yeah.
Michael Schumacher and Steffi Graf, Serena Williams, bunch of really great athletes. Tiger Woods,
Yes.
Kelly Slater. But
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
long period of time when I would very actively watch tennis, especially because I would very strong, I would be really following the Grand Slams and seeing what's happening in them. It's it's cooled a bit, but I still like it. Still like tennis a lot, and I like watching it. But I don't do anywhere near the amount of analysis or thought. Like it doesn't live in my head as rent free as it used to.
Yeah, I know
Like
what you mean. And yeah, tennis is always I like tennis as well, but it doesn't take up anywhere near the headspace.
like
If
there
there's a
would be
Grand Slam on, sure, there
yeah,
may be some thought going into it, but
Yeah, I used to be one of those guys who would have the equivalent of these long ass debates about who's the greatest ever. What about their aspect of their play? What would happen, like, if you had a modern Rod Lever played in the modern day with modern techniques and stuff? Would he be better than Pete back in the day? We were compared to people like Pete Sampras, and I would always
Yeah.
insist Boris Becker was better than any of them in his peak. But we all said dumb shit when we were younger. Okay, like let's not dwell on those things. But yeah, the tennis used to take up a huge amount of my headspace, but it does not do anywhere near as much of that anymore. That being said, I still really enjoy like football. I think it's interesting for me that once we started doing the podcast is when I learned to enjoy football for football. I think at this point, while I'm still a really big mention for until we started doing the podcast, I was probably a Manchester United fan first, football fan second.
All right. Yeah.
If that makes sense, like I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure, I would watch other games because I liked watching football, but I was a Man United fan. I would watch a boring Manchester United game over an exciting other game
Yeah.
because that was my thing. Whereas now I'm very much a football fan first. Like I analytically love thinking about football, and what
Yeah.
and like I really really love watching good teams play, and I really like it when I have no dog in the fight. Like I've got no skin in the game, and I can literally just look at the sport, look at the game purely analytically, and like I don't like I think I still find it hard to do that in cricket in a lot of times, but I can do that with football. I can do that. Obviously, I do that with NFL already, and I can do that. I can do that with basketball. But yeah, for cricket, it's a bit harder for me to do that. But I still do like some series I will. Like obviously, I can watch an Ashes series, no skin in the game. I can
Yeah.
watch an watch an a like an Australia India series without the skin in the game and really enjoy it. And like, sure, if there is a great test series going on back and forth, I'll love watching that, but I won't be as intently watching that. Like, I could really only watch 5 days every ball and all the balls of a test match of like in those series, like any New Zealand game, and then like okay, maybe Australia, England in the Ashes, and India, Australia. In the
Yeah.
Gavaskar Border Trophy. Other series, I'm just like, okay, it has to be a really good game, or there must be something on. Like, I'm sure I'll watch a World Test Championship if that
Yeah.
happens, or if there's a game that's pivotal to New Zealand qualifying. But it's very hard for me to watch it analytically. I'm more than happy to like let people do the numbers and see what they have to say, and be like, oh yeah, so this is interesting. So this is what's happening. And
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you mean. I mean, I find with cricket that I could watch a game, and like obviously if there's a New Zealand game,
I will clarify that is only
I'm
Test cricket. I think I could watch a
yeah.
lot of T20s and one-day games. I do say that ODIs are my favorite format, and I would watch lots. I can happily watch ODI games and Test
Oh no,
T20
yeah,
games,
easy.
like and not have a skin in the game and just enjoy watching the games.
Well, the 2015 World Cup,
Yeah,
that was really exciting with lots of fun games, and you didn't
yeah,
have to have a skin in the game,
yeah.
though a lot of them you sort of did because it was impacting on New Zealand's journey as well.
I
Um,
mean, New Zealand
but
already qualified for the knockout so quickly that
yeah,
like by the time I had to watch New Zealand play Bangladesh in their last group game, like both Bangladesh and New Zealand had qualified for the next round. Like neither of them had, like, I could literally just watch that game and enjoy it. And like
yeah,
it was like one of the most enjoyable games for me because it's like, oh, New Zealand played really well. Mohammadullah scored a century. Bangladesh bats first, does really well. Mohammadullah scores a century, and like Martin Guptill plays one of his best World Cup knocks and gets
yeah,
a century to get New Zealand over the line.
yeah. That's amazing. I was gonna say with test matches, I can watch other ones and I can watch whole days of it if I want to. It more comes down to prioritization of time,
Yeah,
and that you know obviously my life these days has got a lot more things going on, so I
Yeah. I mean, even if
Can't really.
like if I were to go on holiday, for example, and I am going on
Yeah.
holiday to Bangladesh, if there's a cricket match going on and people will watch because we love watching, they love watching cricket, and like if there's a game, there's a one day series going on, we will watch it. There's a test series going on. If it's Australia versus Zimbabwe, I won't watch that. I won't watch England versus the West Indies. Usually, like back in the day when they had Brian Lara, sure, I'll watch
Yeah.
that. But I'm watching Brian Lara. I'm not watching.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the test match as per se. But if there's
That's a fair point.
if there's a random T20 or an ODI game going on, I'll happily watch that. Like it's on my holiday time. Like basically means I have all the time in the world to watch this.
Yeah. If I had all the time, yeah, sure, I'd have cricket matches on, and it could be Australia Zimbabwe for all I care. If that was the cricket match that was on, and that's there wasn't football to be watching.
Yeah.
Football generally comes about. Then yeah, I would have a cricket match on, and I would watch it.
To be fair, we can watch a football match while watching a test match very easily.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'd be watching the test match in the vein of all great test match watching, which is generally whilst doing something else.
Yeah.
But having it there, and sure, if there's dull bits, you're more concentrating on whatever else you're doing. If there's the exciting bit, or this is, the great battle between bat and ball happening, and there's clearly a plan going on, and things are getting a bit tense, you concentrate a bit more on the cricket. But
I have to
that's what I always like about test match.
I do have to say that I do get very, very invested in basketball as we get closer to the playoffs, especially if the Suns are doing well. But at the moment, because I'm so enjoying watching games where I have very little skin in the game, and with NFL, as we get closer to the playoffs, I do tend to become more, oh yeah, I have to watch these games. This match is going to be incredible, and get into watching them. Like there was when I went on holiday to Bangladesh the last time I went, which was around 2019. Lamar Jackson was so unmissable. I was getting up at 3 in the morning and watching Baltimore Ravens games till like 6 in the morning, and then going back to sleep, like while on holiday. And then this wasn't like a holiday thing where I could just chill and sleep all day. I could chill and sleep a little bit, but I had to be out, because just as an insight into Bangladesh, the traffic in Dhaka is so bad. Like the equivalent of traveling from here to maybe Lincoln Road, like the end of Lincoln Road.
Okay, so yeah, 15 k's or so.
Yeah, like if we went not on the motorway,
All right, yeah.
If we went, so that should take, even with the height of traffic, will take half an hour, right? Give or take.
Maybe 45 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll take about 2 hours to do in Dhaka.
Well, yeah.
So, like, if I have people to meet, I have people to go see, that's the sort of thing. Like, I have to be, up and ready and have to get ready to go see them. And, like, that's the sort of travel time takes up a huge amount of your time sink.
There's proper logistics problems to be overcome.
Yeah. So, despite all that, I was still but that's like a rare thing where this athlete just catches your imagination and you just have to go and like watch them play, because every minute they're playing, it's like must see TV. And there's a reason why he was like only the second player ever to get like an undisputed MVP. So but I do that for football as well. But it would almost have to be like, to do that sort of thing in a holiday, I would probably have to wait for it to be something like, okay, it's United playing Liverpool or United's playing City, or there's going to be a particularly really good game like City versus Liverpool for the thing, and it's like, it's going to be a clash, like, which will also be playing while I'm there. So foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Yeah.
But if you were to do the same, like you were on a holiday for 2 weeks and you're in New Zealand, what are the sports you think you would like? I know World Cup football we will get up early to watch. That's a given. And to an extent, World Cup cricket if it's a New Zealand game and it's important. But what would be the maybe obviously All Blacks in a World Cup final? Those are given. situations.
Yeah.
Those happen once every 4 years. They're given. But like, what are the things you think you'd watch?
So if we're talking about getting up for,
Yeah,
I
like
guess
assuming it's logistically possible with work and family commitments.
Yeah, in which case it's pretty much Chelsea games works for that. Ideally, if I could watch it, if there was some sort of all whites game happening, then but that's a little bit because they don't play that often.
Yeah,
I haven't gone to look actually. Now that you say that, it reminds me I should have gone to see where I could watch the all whites World Cup qualifying, but I assume that's on Sky Sports. So that's a little harder to.
Yeah, you'll have to
for the
find.
logistics for me.
Like, I'll probably be able to watch it on some sort of satellite TV when I'm in Bangladesh, but you're probably gonna have to find a pub to go to. There are football pubs that specialize in just football here.
Oh yeah, no.
And they've existed longer than rugby pubs in New Zealand.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Like the Immigrant back in the day was like where all football fans would congregate in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the best sports pubs by a long shot. And then like the London Underground would play the games, but only the big games and at the time, at the right times, but because they're in downtown they still had people who were there not just for sports watching.
Yeah.
Versus like the Immigrant was a proper sports bar.
Yeah. But you're right, yeah. The original sports bars were football bars.
Yeah.
Only later on when
in New Zealand anyway, I don't mean like, everywhere else.
Yeah, in New Zealand. It was only later on in New Zealand where people were like, wait, we can also show the All Blacks games as a thing, like as a central part of the bar, as opposed to there's an All Blacks game on, so we just stick it on a big screen.
There's this great bar I went to in Hong Kong, so if you ever go back that way, I strongly recommend going. It's in Wan Chai, of course. It's called Amazon. It is a proper football bar, but they really like rugby. Like I was there and I managed to catch a New South Wales Country versus New South Wales City game. And there were a bunch of rugby league fans sitting there watching with me. And yeah, sure, there were a lot of Aussie expats, Kiwi expats amongst them. But like there was a bunch of like local Hong Kong people like intently, probably because they gambled on the games or whatever, but they were watching it hardcore as well. Nice. And like this was the big game playing, and in another corner there was an AFL game going on, but it wasn't an Essendon game. And also like priority of order for me, like rugby league trumps like AFL. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had all the football codes. There was NFL games going on. There were soccer games playing in late, like in their schedule of games to watch that you could see.
Right. All right, that's pretty cool. I have to remember that one, as you say, when we're next back. Not that I know when we're going back, but at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of getting up, Chelsea games are almost there. All white games are guaranteed there. When I was younger, sure it would have been, and probably now, like World Cup games, whether that be cricket, football, union, or league. If I've got nothing better to do, and there's no else calling my time, sure, I'll get up for World Cup games, but I wouldn't get up. Probably might get up for an All Blacks game, depending on who it was.
I did get up to watch the All Blacks versus France game in 1999 when our first year of uni. Yeah,
I was up for that one too. Whilst it was a good game for a neutral, watching France be spectacular, I still not very happy.
Literally was like, man, John Olomu played so well in that game, only for us to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Just to have France be ridiculously France about it all.
Yeah. That's the sort of game that only France could do, like in that situation. Yeah. And to be fair, France are our kryptonite in Rugby World Cups.
I was just saying.
We're also the team that we beat in finals for some reason.
Yeah, we're also their kryptonite.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the 99 game is almost harder to stomach for me than the 2007 game?
Yeah, the 2007 game, I think half Like before halftime, we were like, yeah, France is gonna win. But like
Yeah,
99 game, like after halftime, we're like, yeah, we've done this. We're gonna win this game.
yeah.
And then France
The
came back.
yeah, the 2007 game. Just as you watch it longer and longer, you just knew like this. They can't do it. The All Blacks just this is not going to happen. This is one of those games where it's just not happening. But yeah, as you say, the 99 game, because it was seemed so cut and dry, and then it was just so spectacular France that you're
Yeah,
just like, why? Cool, but why? Why did this happen to us?
it was unfortunate that there's like in the 2015 Rugby World Cup, 2015? No, not 2000. Yeah,
That was
2015 Rugby World Cup when I was in Dubai when that was
yeah,
happening, and like I came back just in time for the finals. Like the week I came back, the week after was the
yeah,
finals. But I came in like we're the quarters against Ireland, and I was supposed to go out and watch that game, and the which was going to be a big game and everything, and then I got sick. And we were like, better not go
uh,
out because we're gonna travel next week and get back to New Zealand.
yeah.
But that would like the sports bar situation in Dubai is pretty good to watch football games
Oh, that's
and
good.
things like that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um. So yeah, but I mean, other than those, say a World Cup or a Chelsea game or an Always game, I'm pretty much probably not getting up. Um, a Black Caps game, maybe, depending on who it was. Um, but only normally not because, or maybe if I had absolutely nothing else to do. Just cricket it takes a lot more hours, is more the issue, so I like my sleep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as much as sometimes we'd like to, I just tend to go, okay, I'll watch the second half, maybe. Like
Yeah, yeah,
T20 is different. Like I did get up to watch the finals and watch the semi-finals of the
yeah,
T20 World
same.
Cup this year. But yeah, the if it was a yeah, if it was a one day, I'd be tempted to maybe only do the second half.
Yeah, yeah.
But probably not. I'd probably end up watching because I did watch the 99 World Cup all the way from beginning to end and then
Oh,
go to
nice.
work. Like I literally stayed up and watched it and then went yeah. I was just like, yeah, I'll do an all-nighter. It's fine. And to be fair, I can do an all-nighter if it's a planned all-nighter. It's not about the physical stuff anymore. It's like the mental thing. Like just
Yeah,
go and get the and I think I did drift off a few times while watching that game, even though it was super intense.
yeah,
The I went and got lots of coffees and the thing break. Cricket, you can do that. Get lots of coffees, keep yourself
yeah, yeah. No,
motivated.
the 2019 World Cup final, same thing. I stayed up all night and watched that, and then all the way through. And I think I actually worked the next day, but I worked from home, so it wasn't so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, I work from home too.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I decided I'm
Um,
gonna go into work because I felt like too energy. You know, sometimes after an all-nighter, you feel too energized.
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I did like that one, because yeah, it was. I mean, it was a few days before, but I'd done sort of two half all nighters with the semi final for that for New Zealand India, the greatest game over 2 days,
Yeah,
the greatest
yeah.
one ODI over days.
Yeah, yeah, I did that too, sort of.
That
Um,
was really good, because that was the one where the same thing. I was like, oh, I'll watch the first half and then I'll see how I'm feeling of the first when it first started, and then you got through the first half and it gets called off, and then they come back next day. And like, well, I guess I'm just doing two first halves now. This works.
yeah, and I initially thought of the World Cup final that if I just want to watch New Zealand bat, and then afterwards I'll see how we're going against England. If they look good, I might just call it, and then because England's gonna win. And
Yeah,
then I think we just kept getting wickets every now and then. There were partnerships, but we just kept getting wickets and kept bowling economically. So it's just like, okay, eventually England's gonna break out of their shell. We can't just keep them down. It's coming, it's
yeah,
coming. And then when it was like at the 30th over, I'm like, okay, I may as well see it to the end. It's already 30 overs into this.
yeah, exactly.
into this now. Like, what's another couple of hours at this point?
Yeah. I think for the final, I had sort of mentally gone, I'm going to watch the whole game. So
Yeah,
I'd sort of prepared myself for the all-nighter thing and been like, it's just what I'm doing. I'm watching this. But I was also prepared that I may fail at it. I think I told my wife that. It's like, I'm going to stay up and watch the thing. She looked at me with that look of like, mm-hmm, you are, I see. Like, yeah, I know I may fail at this. But as
yeah,
you say, the game just sort of had just enough interest so that you just always like, oh, a little bit more.
because
Oh, a little bit more.
because we had a TV in the other in the second bedroom in our old house, and
Mm.
which is where I was watching it, and I set up this thing to um watch a stream on the TV, and
Yeah.
yeah, so like at some point my wife went to bed and fell asleep. Like obviously kids all went to bed and fell asleep, and I think she got up around 5 or 6, and it was still going on, and I was still watching, and she's like, "Are you still up?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yep, yep. This is like the fifth cup of coffee, fifth jar of coffee I'm having. I'm fine."
Yeah. I think I had a similar conversation with my wife. The oh, I see you made it all night. Like, yep, I did. Interesting. Like, mm-hmm. Continued on.
Yeah. And then obviously, like after that final, the super over, like you just it's just
Yeah.
like something you'll never forget, and you're just like, yeah, I couldn't go back to sleep even if I wanted to right now.
No,
I was
exactly.
actually at the point where I was just like, okay, breakfast, let's go. Like I actually had breakfast before super over, and I was just like, I'm suddenly hungry again. I'm gonna go eat some more. And I'm just like, I should be tired, but I'm not. I'm just gonna work now. I'm just gonna power through. And apparently, like at work, people were like watching it on a big screen and everything. Because I think it was about 7 o'clock our time when the Super Over was happening. 7 o'clock, 7:30 sort of time.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit later, maybe even 8 o'clock. I'd have to
Yeah,
look
yeah,
up. I
you're right.
feel
Might
like
have
it
been
was
8 o'clock.
yeah. I feel it was actually fairly late. But
Yeah, I think you're right. It was 8 o'clock because I did tell my work I could be late because we're watching the cricket and I'll start a bit late, but thing. And they were like,
yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
They were like, yeah, shut up. Super was about to start.
Yeah, no, I told them like beforehand,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah,
knew.
I know what you mean. But yeah.
And I was working from home, so it didn't matter. And I was like, oh, I'll come in later in
Mm.
the day, like, but because I'm gonna watch this, I'll
Yeah.
come in.
I think I had the same conversation with my boss, who's also a big cricket fan, so he's like, yeah, I'm doing the same thing. So like if things go badly, we may not be at work. That's fine. Just we'll see how we go.
Yeah, I am a bit disappointed from an NFL perspective that we're gonna have to look at taking annuals if we want to watch the Super Bowl at a place again
Yeah, yeah.
from now on. Instead of like, oh yeah, it's a holiday, we just go into town and watch it.
It was nice that it was timed that way previously, but as you say, you have to make our own holiday now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well, it's all right. It's once a year, and then
Yeah,
Champions
exactly.
League.
Yeah,
But the Champions League has moved to Saturday. So that's balanced it a bit. I did hate
yeah,
the
yeah,
fact that it was on Saturday because I always felt like that was wrong. It should always be Wednesday. Champions
yeah.
League should
It
always
was
be midweek.
yeah, it was nice. I always liked the nice tradition we
Is
had of that Wednesday morning when it was on to get up, or
yeah,
Thursday morning when it was on to get up, come in early to town, watch the game,
yeah,
and then go to work. That was
yeah,
a
yeah.
fun little thing. It always felt a little like Saturday mornings. You say it just feels a little different. You just think, yes, it's
Like
not the
it's so
Champions League.
like it's difficult to commit, right? Like when you have kids and
Yeah.
stuff, they have Saturday things to do with them.
Oh,
Like
I can't commit now for Saturday mornings. Like Saturday mornings is kid stuff.
yeah,
That's it. You want to do something Saturday morning? I'm sorry, that's not happening. There's kid stuff happening.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Or like if I were to do it, I would have to be like, okay, 3 weeks in advance, we're planning to go Champions League. It's gonna be this, blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah,
But just before we go, we
yeah,
are very close to the NFL season.
yeah.
Some might say dangerously close.
Dangerously close.
So look forward to our NFL draft, which will be on the 2nd of September.
About a week away, yeah.
About a week away, Friday night, New Zealand time, 9 p.m. 2 in the morning Pacific time if you're in the Americas.
Yeah.
Which I know some of you are somehow. But yeah, that's draft, and we will review all the NFL teams and go through maybe the first week of fixtures if we have time.
Yeah, that'd be right. So it'd be good to have there. I think, yeah, as you've said, currently we sort of have a full roster, but we can expand that. So really, just let us know in chat if you're keen, and
Absolutely.
and Mr. NumberNine here can expand out, and you can be added in.
Absolutely. We do have 10 players, so keep that in mind. If you think there's too many players in this league, then you joining is not going to solve that problem.
It's just going to add to the problem. But I don't know, more the merrier to me. But
yeah.
I mean, it has the same problem as with the EPL draft. When we have lots of players, the good players become a lot more scarce. But
Yeah.
At the same time, it adds a lot more fun. You get a lot more things happening. It's the same thing with head-to-head stuff. So more people just means a greater variety of games.
I agree. Even if you don't want to join the game, if you are interested in following our take on the NFL, I recommend you plug in and listen and have your say. Tell us that we're dumb for drafting people.
Exactly.
And things like this. Like, we know half the reason you listen to this podcast is to mock us. So
exactly. And the live drafts, so the EPL draft and this draft, is a chance to get on with us and say what you think and how absolutely wrong we are, and laugh at our draft picks as well, because clearly, it's just going to be wrong. So, especially mine, because my NFL knowledge is not the best.
Yeah, and I think if anything, my NFL knowledge means my draft picks are wrong.
Like you've got
one of those people who know too much to realize that they're doing it wrong.
Yeah, well, mine's just almost random picks.
Yeah.
I've been getting a couple of my boys from the Bills, and then from then on, it's like, seems good.
Fair enough. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to hearing from you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. Find 642 Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.